26k here. I'm going to be taking you through how to do a very basic, quick little mission. Hopefully, no matter how good or bad you are at mission making, this should, in theory, show that anything is possible. All you need is an objective and an AI script to populate the area. So, to keep things simple, I'm going to be using UPS Lite to populate the area and a few fill house scripts. We are going to be going against US forces. The objective will be to destroy an Apache. So I'm just going to throw the objective down here. I'm going to give the variable a name, call it Heli, and I'm going to make sure it is locked to stop anyone making off with it. Okay, we just need some vehicles to basically give the area some ambience. So I'm just going to throw these down and lock them just to stop anyone from making off in them. I didn't want to cut that, so copy that and paste it. I'm just going to dot a few of these around just to make it look like the base has some life. Double click. Quickly lock those. These are just going to be to set the scene really, nothing too in depth. A few trucks I think and then we should be done. So I like the ones with the tankers, there we go. Nice fuel truck. Okay, just need a couple of trucks there I reckon. Okay, that's some very light basic decoration around there. What we're going to do now is throw down some units just to fill the area out. So these will be standard placed infantry. And we're just going to throw a couple down at random places. I'm going to put them into kneeling just so they're crouched. And we're going to be using a script to populate the buildings so I can omit the buildings for now. I just want a couple of guards, outside entrances and such like. So I'm going to put these guys into safe mode. So they'll have their weapons down as if they're sentrying in front of the entrance. And we had another one. In fact, I'm going to put some in front of the doorway there. Couple there. There we go. Some nice light contacts. And just a couple there, just to make the area look a little bit lived in. Okay. Now the rest of the patrols around the area are going to be exclusively controlled by UPS Lite. This isn't going to be a big mission, this is probably only one for maybe 2 or 3 teams at the most. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my mission and I'm going to open up my framework. So if we jump to the framework folder, we're going to be getting a few select items from it. And those select items are going to be player groups, the UPS script and area, and also the fill house scripts. So, the UPS area will be, I'm going to have a random patrol and the UPS zone, so I'm going to control C on them. I'm also going to hold down control and select the opposing forces. As we said, we're only going to have a small number of teams, three at the very most, and I'm going to be sure to select the triangles here just to make sure all the units in there are selected. Holding down control, I'm going to click on the start respawn because I'm going to want the respawn as well. This marker basically allows you to keep the casualty counts. So all I need to do now is select my fill house script. There are 2 versions. There's one that spawns at game start and the other spawns when a player enters the trigger area. For now, I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and select both of those. So we've copied UPS, we've copied the fill house scripts, and we've also copied the units. I'm now going to Control C on those just to copy them all. And then we're going to jump back into our mission. It was called Simple. Okay. Pasting them in. I am going to have start over in the sea. So we're just going to throw them in the ocean for the time being. The fill house script, because the barracks has spawn positions that are on a viewable area, we don't really want to use a trigger for this, because what will happen is that when the units get within 300 meters, units will miraculously appear. So either that trigger needs to be set to 500 or something, but really it's a bit pointless because they're going to spawn anyway, so I'm just going to leave that in there, and then I'm going to change it to USMC. We might have to correct, oh no, it's US Army. So I think, yeah, I'm going to have to check, but I think it's USW. That doesn't seem right at all. Okay, I'm going to have to definitely double check that, so I'm just going to edit these. So these two brackets here means the minimum spawn and the potential maximum. So that's basically between 3 and 6 people can spawn there. So I'm just going to change that to 2 minimum plus another 2 possible. And if we find the logic, we're going to do the same with the spawn positions here. So I'm just going to bump the size of that down. USA Woodland. So that's 6 men can possibly spawn in these 2 buildings here. So that's between 3 and 6. And I just need to bump the range on that one as well. Okay, that's already set to 15. That's fantastic. So there are no other buildings units can spawn in except this warehouse. Really, the warehouse should be filled, but I'm just going to be lazy and throw another vehicle in there just to make it look less empty. They can't spawn on there, but that's a good opportunity to put a sharpshooter up there, so that is what I'm going to do. Marksman. There we go. So he'll be a little bit of a threat to someone if they don't spot him. Okay. I'm just going to fill this house here also. And I'm only going to have 1 person. So there may or may not be a person in there. Just a bit of balance in there. Right, so that's the areas to fill the houses done. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the script out of this group here, because this is going to be our UPS zone. So we're going to just bump this zone up. I'm going to go for 800 by 600. We'll see what that looks like. That is way too big. Let's cut those down by half. So let's go for 4 and 2. Little bit better, but still a tap tight, so we're going to go up to 3 on there. There we go, perfect. The area can be more or less rough as it is. I think I'm going to have to make them come in from the north, because the catch is that's a very open side of terrain, so if they're spotted, which they ultimately will be because the AI are pretty sharp, they're going to all get shot, so there needs to be a bit more buffer before they can move in. So I reckon if they start over here, then they can be encouraged to land at this area or risk it and move over here. but the focus will be around the base itself. So I'm just going to change that area, if I can find where the marker was. I'm going to change that to a border just so it doesn't get in the way anymore. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick the units that are going to spawn in and patrol through UPS. So I've still got the UPS script call copied in the clipboard. I'm going to paste down some US Army units. What does ARB mean? I have absolutely no clue what that means, but it doesn't seem to make much difference, so I'm just going to use the standard one. So we're going to have one squad, and how many teams? I reckon 4 teams around there, so let's just get them organised. So I'm just going to format these guys into formation, and then I'm going to double click the leader, paste in the script call. The script call will be set to randomly position them in the zone, and I'm going to be using UPS Lite. UPS Lite is obviously, as the name implies, a lighter version of UPS Mon. For a mission this size, it doesn't need to be anything essential or large scale, so UPS Lite is perfect for this. Okay, so we've got one randomly placed large group, and we're going to have 4 smaller groups patrolling around. We are also going to have a sentry patrol moving around the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, now I'm going to spawn in a new team. Oh, it'll be an MG team, perfect. So 1 MG. No, it's not going to be an MG, they're going to get torn apart. Okay, it's just going to be a basic sentry. So we're going to quickly throw down some waypoints for these guys here. First of all, I'm going to set them to safe and limited, so they're just walking. Then shift and click. And I'm going to shift click a few points around just so they can be on patrol. And that finishes off with a cycle, so they will do that indefinitely. There we go. I'm going to do that with one more group. So this base is going to start to be looking a little bit fuller now, and they're going to be basically patrolling around the outskirts of the area, just in case the players decide to sneak around the edges. So I'm going to actually have 2 groups there. I'm going to get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. So there we go, one group's moving that way. I'm just selecting these waypoints now to Control C and Control V, and we're going to flip that round to let them patrol the other corner of the base. There we go, perfect. So all we need now is we just need a vehicle, and we're going to have a Humvee M2 moving around. This will also be using the Urban Patrol script, or UPS, but it's not going to have a random start. So that basically means this vehicle will start here and it will patrol around the area where it starts, whereas these guys, because they are set to random, they will be randomly teleported to a position around and they will start moving from there. Now, being that these people are going to be landing, I need to start populating some of the other areas. So basically, as a general rule of thumb, this is an inhabited island, so they shouldn't be leaving any areas unoccupied. So let's just check the range on that. That's perfect. So if they land anywhere on that shore, then this house will be filled and there's less chance of them seeing it. But just to make things a little bit obvious for them, I'm going to put a car in there. And I'm also going to put its headlights on, just in case it's a night mission. But I am going to lock it. There we go. In fact, I'll put the car around that way. There we go, perfect. So, that's that populated. Is there any other small houses? Ooh, what have we got here? Okay, I'm going to leave that as it is. There's nothing too interesting around there. I do kind of want to move this over a little. Or at a different angle. Because the enemies, I say, the players are going to be coming from that angle, so anything round this side isn't likely to be touched. That'll have to do. So, finally, let's get this sorted, which will be the spawning. Now everyone's going to spawn in the water. That's not ideal, so what we need is just a bit of land. Pier, I think I'm looking for. There we go. Doesn't need to be anything great, just a simple rock formation there. Oh dear, that shows how good my leveling is. In fact, can I link that? Right, there we go. Okay. Now I need something to allow them to get into the end and out. That down a bit, down to 125. Or they can use the rocks if they have to, I guess. We'll see how that works. Okay, so that'll be that done. Now we just need to sort these groups out. We're only going to be using two fire teams each, so I can cut off the bottom lot. I just need to group these people up a bit. And then raise them all up to this level. Flip those round. So what we're going to do is we're going to place them on this shore here. I can work out whereabouts they are. Yeah, it's going to be a bit fiddly, but never mind. So, Commander will have a boat. In fact, I'm just going to leave these guys floating, and I'll get rid of those two because he's just going to have a medic as support. Right, so this is going to be Alpha, so you are over here. Move you guys forward. They're all going to be floating at this point in time. We're just going to make those neat in a second. Move you over a bit, and the same with you guys. Just bunch them up together. And then lastly, Charlie. You over, group them up. Alright, so we're going to control click on each of those groups, and then we're going to right click and transform and align them to the surface. There we go. They are now all safely on dry land. So we just need to throw some boats in and we'll be done. We're going to have these guys as Russian Spetsnaz forces, so standard boats for those. Maybe an assault boat. She's those. I think they take 5 men each, so what we'll do is we'll throw down a few if we can get the level sorted. Couple of boats there for people, so we'll just do roughly 3 per squad just to account for any gyps or any other problems that might arise. Right, okay. What we can also do is we can also fill these boats with some basic gear for the men. So what we'll just do is we'll just select these boats, right click, go to attributes, and I'll paste in the gear script. And I'm going to give them a car gear, which is basically a handful of preset gear from the template. So that said, I'm just going to mark myself as a player there, and then we can rename this to be a flag to signify the start. Right. Okay, so they are going to depart from that location, land on the shore somewhere. The AI have been placed. The scripts have been set. They need a bit of contact along this road because the UPS units won't get that far out. No, they'll be alright. So the UPS area stretches to there, so that's fine. So we just need to set the AO. And to do that, we call AO marker. It is case sensitive, so it has to be capital A, capital O. I'm going to change this to a border. That's a red. Range is 1500. And we're going to go for a square, so 1500 there. See how that looks. Oh, that's a little bit large. Let's go for 11. Oh dear, a little bit tight. Let's go for 12. Perfect. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that's the marker done. We just need the objective set now and a trigger. As I said before, it's just a simple basic mission. So I'm going to throw down a task, a state, a trigger, and then finally a marker for the objective. And that is called marker 1. The objective is going to be marked as red. So our task will be to all playable units. To destroy the helicopter. The destination will be the module position. The task type will be a helicopter. And that is okay. The task state will be succeeded. We're going to sync the task with the state, and we're going to then sync the state with the trigger. So when that trigger fires, it will set the task state to succeeded, which will in turn will complete the created task. We're going to take our variable name that we named, our helicopter, and we're going to change the condition to not alive helicopter. We're going to make that a server only script, server only trigger even, and we're going to call that heli dead. So when the condition has been met, the trigger will fire. We just need to set to the location of this. So to do that, oh okay, we've also got, before we do that, we've got a marker. So what we're going to do is we're going to just, when the trigger gets activated, we want to make this marker grey. So to do that, we're going to set marker color. So as soon as that trigger fires, the marker will turn grey to indicate the trigger has been completed. Now we're just going to move that over there. Now the secondary objective will be to exfil the area. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the create tasks that we've just done here, copy these and paste them again, and what we're going to do is we're going to name this one exfil area, and we're going to say leave the island. There's going to be no destination on that because the objective is simply to leave the island. We click OK on that, and the task state, again, no change needed there, and we're going to call this one end because the mission will end when Blue 4 is not present. Nope, we're not Blue 4, we're Op 4. So when Op 4 have left the island, and the island range is going to be 250, the mission will end. Now we don't need the activation there. What we need is we need the ends trigger. So to do that, if we have a quick look at the functions viewer, which lists all the game functions you can use, I know I am looking for BIS FNC end mission server, which ends the mission on all computers in multiplayer. So I'm going to copy that, I'm going to close it, I'm going to go back into my activation, and the ending will be end 1, which will be listed in my endings file. We'll get onto that later, and I'm going to go call that function. So at the moment there is a slight problem with this because this trigger is going to fire as soon as Op4 are not present, which means as soon as I start the game, because Op4 are not yet in this circle, the mission will be completed, which is not very good at all. So to do that, what we need is we need to add a new condition onto this trigger. So the condition will only fire when Op4 is not present and another trigger has been activated. And that trigger is going to be TR Heli. I'm not sure if we actually called it TR Heli, I don't think we did, but we're going to go back and rename it now. Oh, it's Heli Dead. Okay, well, I'll give him that. We'll leave that as it is. So I'll just dive back into here and call it Heli Dead. So when Op4 is not present and the trigger has been activated, I'm just going to put that the other way around because it's more... I don't think it even matters, but if that condition is checked first, that condition will always fail, and that will be the one that blocks all the other conditions from completing. If you didn't understand that, don't worry, I don't think it really matters. So at the end of the day, the trigger activated has to be active for that trigger, and also Op4 have to be not present in order to end this mission, which is fantastic. So 250 isn't really enough there. I'm just going to bump that up to 350 because they have to actually clear the island. I want them to get a decent amount out of the UPS zone just to ensure they're not being chased, and I think that'll do. So I think that should be everything. So we now have an ending condition when the helicopter has been destroyed and Op4 are not present. All we need to do now is we just need to name that. I just flip these off by default. Set a cooperative mission. I use default, that's 100 as well. The summary contains nothing different there. I leave that ticked for the hell of it. And we're okay. Now, I think we're about done in the editor. What we need to do now is we need to merge our framework on top of this. So, this mission's probably ready to go. But first we need to dive back into the desktop and paste in the framework. So we're going to open the scenario folder. So this is our scenario folder. It's looking pretty empty at the moment because it just simply contains the mission.sqm. This is everything related to our mission. We do not want to delete this, overwrite it or edit it in any way. This is just going to sit there and just be good. But we do need the rest of the framework. So you'll need to find the directory you saved your framework to, in which case it is this for me. I'm going to select all files but the mission.sqm because I do not want to destroy my mission. I'm going to right click, copy those. Then I'm going to go back to my mission folder and I'm going to paste. So that's pasted in all the files. We now have a nice fleshed out mission directory. We've got the F folder, which is the framework folder. Nothing in here should really need edited. We've got the mission folder, which we will be changing a lot of things in. And we've also got the scripts folder. The scripts folder contains useful scripts that you may or may not use. Typically it's best to delete any scripts in here that you're not using. For instance, I know I'm not using DAC. We're using UPS Lite, not UPS Mon, so I can delete all the files but UPS Lite. I'm not using any of the Flashlight or Convoy scripts, so I can delete that. And the gear folder, we're going to be a Russian Spetsnaz unit, so let's find a suitable gear. Spetsnaz wood. We're going to go for Spetsnaz Desert, perfect. Which will be these chaps here. So I'm just going to cut that and paste it in because we're going to need this gear script later. However, the rest of the gears we do not need, so we're going to delete those. Just before I move away, I'm just going to check the LV, which is the fill house script, and we're just going to check the group list just to make sure I am using the right type of unit, and I am not. As you can see, I put USAW and not USW, so I'm going to have to quickly fix those. So just bear with me a few minutes while I dive back and correct these. I could actually edit the script itself, but in the future when I come to edit this again, you can bet I'll just paste over the LV scripts file and it will lose all my changes. So I might as well just take the time and do it properly here. In fact, it'd be easy doing it this way. So USW, 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 and USW. Okay. Slight tangent there, but we're done now. So UPS was sorted. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut this gear script and paste it into the loadout section of the mission folder. What we're going to do is we're going to press F2 to rename that and copy the text, because what we need to do is we need to tell the framework to use this gear script as an assigned loadout. To do that, we're going to edit the assigned loadouts SQF, which at the moment is all grayed out, so nothing will load. So now we've pasted the framework, if we quickly dive back in game and test this out, okay, so in game we have a warning of some issues detected at the bottom left there. We nicely start on our rocky platform with the island to go to. That looks good. We don't have the gear script running yet. That's not surprising. So if we press M and then go to the briefing, we can see our issues list, which is basically complaining that we haven't used a gear script. And we've also got a lot of groups. 83 groups are suspended. It's telling us to remove any unused groups, and it's saying that we've listed a lot of groups that we've not used. We'll get round to that in time. For now, signals appear to be being picked up more or less correctly. Again, we've not tidied up our groups, so that's looking quite messy at the moment. However, the Orbat itself is looking pretty good. Likewise, we can also test our end trigger if I quickly assign Zeus to myself and add the units. I can just tap Y to go into Zeus mode, and I can go across to here, and we can see a few patrols going around, which is fine. Our Fieldhouse script has worked. We now have a few chaps on the roof. And what I'm going to do is I can just destroy this helicopter, which should end the mission. Of course, as no Op4 are in the area, the mission will end right away. Okay, so that means our triggers are working fine. However, we just need to tweak the remaining files in the mission folder. So we're now going to update our loadout. As before, assigned loadouts SQF, we go to edit. We're going to be Eastern Forces, so we can get rid of that. On comment the script so it appears to be active. And we're going to put our loadout file in place of the template. So this will actually include the contents in this file. And I am going to be extremely tough, and I'm not going to include any NVGs. Just for a challenge. Which it looks like I've already removed them because they're Russians. That's good thinking. So everyone gets scope 1. Okay, right, yep, that's all fine. So I'm not going to mess with any of those. That's all good. I'm going to now save that. That's ready to go. That is the loadout done now. I don't need to mess around anymore on that. I might need to change some of the actual units in the editor, because I've just remembered that they do need to blow up a helicopter, and I do not believe any of them are actually engineers, which could be a problem. So we need to remember to get that updated. Before we do that, we're just going to run through these files. The ACE3 HPP is basically pre-defaulted ACE settings. We don't need to change that. We're happy with that the way it is, which is very good. So we're going to leave that. Our endings, we're only using one basic ending, which is the mission complete. And what we're just going to do is we're just going to personalize this. And there we go. That's done. The groups, which is by far the most important file. It complained there were 83 groups running, so we're going to cut that number down. So we're only going to be using Op4 units, so we can get rid of Blue 4 and Independent. I am only having 3 groups, so 4 including the commander, so that would be Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta. I can get rid of all the other remaining groups. This group variable is saved against the group itself, so if we just quickly dive back in game and check the group variable name, if we double click the triangle, we can see that is the alpha group, and that is the variable name. This variable name has to match with what is present on the groups file, otherwise you will not get group in Orbat, you will not get the radio setup, you will not get Blue 4 tracking, all of that good stuff. It is critical that whatever variable is in here appears in the groups file. Thankfully, because we copied and pasted from the template, these are already named, so no further changes are required. We can then save that and close. The parameters, again, we don't need to fix the time of day or really change the casualty cap or respawn settings, so we can leave all those as they are. The radios files are a little bit more complex because this is a very basic mission. Generally under short ranges, we do not need extra radios, which is the 117 on Acre. We only need 343s and 148s, so we can delete any any units out of the extra radios parameter because they do not need a 117. 117s are typically used for long range, extreme long range communication with aircraft and or vehicles, so that is certainly not required in our mission. So we're going to get rid of the units in there. The rest of the information can be pretty much left as it is. Obviously the large TFAR section is no longer used. We can rename the long range groups if needed. Typically there is no need for that, and we're good to go on the radios. By default, all leaders will get a personal radio, which is the 148. And because I have uncommented the rifleman radio section, undefined will assign to all by default, so that basically means everyone will get a 343. That's the radio section covered. Lastly, we're on to the scripts. A lot of the scripts are very specific, so we do not need TVT or post-process effects. We don't need DAC, we don't need UPS-1 because we're using UPS Lite. We don't need map click teleports because we've got boats. We do, however, need a casualty counter, and that will be for the east units. Are we going to have markers present on the map? I'm going to leave it on, and I'm going to delete the rest of the items here. This is just going to be a nice easy mission. We're just teaching you how to do the framework here in a quick fashion, so we're not going to linger too long on it. We're going to save all that, and we're going to close it. That is the majority of the mission folder sorted. All we need to do now is add a briefing, which is simply going to be destroy a helicopter. Special tasks, we're not going to be using any. Friendly forces. Enemy forces. We won't tell them about the squads because intel is never 100%, and really it's not going to be that hard to spot a group of men. So we'll just keep the enemy forces light. Credits done. That's a very quick rough briefing, but it's good enough, and we also do need to tell them exfil afterwards. Very quick briefing there. So that's the briefing done. We've sorted out our loadouts. We've cleaned up the scripts folder. We've not touched the F folder. Everything is perfect, ready to go. All we need to do now is just configure some of these units. So at the moment we do not want too many AT because the temptation for them to rocket the Apache will be quite high. So we want to avoid that. So to do that, I am going to remove all of their AT. So they will have to take out the Humvee with a machine gun. which is a little bit unkind, but there we go. Someone's going to have to live with it. So to update these, I'm just going to change them to a basic rifleman, and we'll get rid of the AT section. There may even be some AT inside the boats, which, well, if they want to take that, they probably will. I'm just going to convert the last of these guys who were riflemen to engineers, so they do have some explosive capability within the squad. There we go. One final test. I'm just going to make myself an engineer just to see what items I have. And we're going to play that. Okay, so we are now in game. The issues list has now cleared. There are no issues outstanding. I've got my selection of basic optics. I have one RPG in the vehicle, which is perfect. That's probably just enough to last them. And we have our fancy gear script running. Perfect. We also have our Acre radio configured. Signals tab is looking a lot cleaner. Orbat, no change. The mission has some basic objectives. And I think we're ready to go. This mission is good to play. Right, so that's basically taken through how to do the mission from start to finish. Obviously the framework's been very lightly covered, but hopefully there should be enough detail in there to get you a basic mission functioning. And it really is as simple as that. Thanks for watching.